the year is 19 BG, and you've just been born at the Southern Air Temple. Congratulations, you're an airbender, which means you can manipulate wind and air itself through martial arts movements and spiritual connection. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, not really, because that BG at the end of the date means before genocide, but I'm sure that won't be a problem. But anyway, you've just been born during a time of great peace. You see, in this world, some people are born with the ability to manipulate one of the 4 elements, water, fire, earth, or air, through martial arts movements and spiritual connection. This isn't magic exactly, it's more like an extension of your body and will. Waterbenders can pull water from rivers or even the air, shaping it into whips or waves or even ice. Earthbenders can move rocks and metal, reshape terrain, and create walls of stone. Firebenders generate flames from their own body heat and life energy, throwing fire blasts and creating explosions. And airbenders like you can manipulate wind and air currents, creating gusts strong enough to knock people over, forming shields of spinning air, and even achieving flight with the right techniques. But most people in the world can't bend at all, and bending ability is genetic. You're either born with it or you're not. And there's only one person in the world who can control all 4 elements: the Avatar. The Avatar is a single individual who reincarnates over and over in a specific cycle. First as an Air Nomad, then in the next life, they're in the Water Tribe, then as an Earthbender, then in the Fire Nation, and then back to an Air Nomad again. When the Avatar dies, they're immediately reborn as a baby in the next nation in the cycle. The Avatar serves as the bridge between the human world and the spirit world. And more importantly, they're responsible for maintaining balance between the 4 nations. If one nation gets too aggressive, I'm looking at you, Fire Nation, or tries to conquer the others, Fire Nation, the Avatar steps in to restore peace. Right now, the Avatar is a man named Roku from the Fire Nation. He's in his 70s, wise and respected, and he's been doing a pretty good job keeping the peace for decades. Thanks to Avatar Roku, the 4 nations have been living in harmony, trading, cooperating, and settling disputes diplomatically instead of through war. Sure, there are always small conflicts and tensions, but nothing major. The Fire Nation has been particularly well behaved under Fire Lord Sozin's early rule, mostly because Sozin and Roku grew up together as best friends. It's hard to start a war when the Avatar can show up at your palace and remind you why that's a terrible idea. So yeah, things are looking pretty stable right now, and I'm sure they'll stay that way. Oh boy. But here's what makes Air Nomads unique. Every single person born in an air temple is an airbender, 100%. In the Fire Nation, Earth Kingdom, and Water Tribes, maybe 1 in 4 people can bend. But if you're an air nomad, you're guaranteed to be a bender. This is because air nomads are all monks, and that deep spiritual connection manifests as universal bending ability. Pretty neat, except it also means your entire culture is defined by airbending abilities. And if someone wanted to, I don't know, wipe out all airbenders for example, they'd know exactly where to find you. But here's where things get complicated fast. Although the different genders will travel between the air temples for a variety of reasons, the Western Air Temple and the Northern Air Temple are exclusively for females, meaning only women and girls live there, along with the female elders who run the temples. The Eastern and Southern Air Temples, on the other hand, are exclusively male. Men and women live in completely separate temples, thousands of miles apart. As an airbender, you may have parents, but you don't really have a traditional family. Instead, you'll be raised by the entire monk community. After your birth, you'll spend the first 4 years of your life being raised by your mother at home. But after that, your mother drops you off at the Southern Air Temple and returns to the temple where she came from. And you probably won't see her again for years, maybe decades. Air Nomads believe that attachment to parents creates earthly ties and hinders spiritual growth. So children are raised by the community rather than by their biological families. You'll know who your parents are, but you won't have a normal parent-child relationship. Instead, you're raised alongside dozens of other boys by the elder monks, sleeping in shared dormitories, eating in communal halls, and belonging to everyone and no one in particular. The Southern Air Temple was built into a mountain range that's only accessible by flying bison or some serious climbing skills. It's one of 4 air temples: Northern, Eastern, Southern, and Western, scattered across the world in remote, isolated locations. The temples are architectural marvels that are all designed around airbending philosophy. Everything is open air, using natural wind flow. There are no walls or defenses, because air nomads don't believe in those. Who needs military fortifications when you're peaceful and pose no threat to anyone? Right? On a completely unrelated note, let's see what the Fire Nation have been up to. It looks like they've been very busy building up their military with coal-powered warships. After discovering a large supply of natural resources on Natsu Island, which sits right between the Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom, they've decided that the previously unclaimed island is now Fire Nation territory. On top of that, they laid claim to an island considered sacred by the Water Tribes at the halfway point between the North Tribe and the South Tribe. Nobody really knows what to do though, because they're not willing to risk an all-out war. So they just kind of take it on the chin and hope things stay peaceful. At 5 years old, your education begins immediately. Air Nomad schooling focuses on meditation, airbending, philosophy, and spiritual development. You're taught to read and write, to understand the balance of the four nations, and to connect with the spirit world, a parallel dimension inhabited by spirits that exist alongside the physical world. But you're not taught mathematics beyond basic counting. You're not taught about classical literature or science, and you're definitely not taught anything about warfare, combat tactics, or self-defense. Those subjects don't exist in Air Nomad education because they go against the philosophy of peace. Training is everything. The monks teach you discipline before power. You wake before sunrise, meditate, breathe deeply until your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of the wind. But then at 6 years old, you get taught the fun part. Learning airbending. The monks teach you the basic forms, circular movements, redirecting energy, using your opponent's momentum against them. Airbending is the most defensive and evasive of all bending styles. You can create blasts of wind, form protective air shields, enhance your jumps to leap incredible heights, and even achieve temporary flight using a glider, a specialized wingsuit that catches air currents. Advanced techniques includes the air scooter, a spinning ball of air you ride like a vehicle, air sprouts, spinning columns of air, and enhanced agility that makes you incredibly hard to hit.